Hey, greetings, Lily. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, let me see if mine. Say something again.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, no, I'm not hearing you through my headphones. Okay, well, I'll take the headphones off. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
Okay, I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. What a breakthrough. It's been a long time coming. I'm so proud of your. It's like a major shift. I'm so proud of you. I just have to say that. I have to say that. So it's time for Sunday coaching. Give me an update before we jump in because today we're going to be talking about, we're going to be exploring out of control, like uncontrollable cravings. We're going over cravings, but first I want to hear like an update on, let's say, what's swinging.
Um, you mean on all the stuff that I've been doing in terms of my health goals?
Exactly.
Um, I'm gonna first start off by saying that I'm learning to pivot more often, like be more comfortable with making changes on the fly. I know I said this before, but I'm doing it more often, and it's becoming a habit. Um, and it's funny. Remember, you spoke about this years ago about like getting up in the morning, and I was so defiant and like I'm not gonna get up no 5 o'clock in no morning, and it was like I could not fathom it. And then I'm over here getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting ready to go do my walk because it's important to me. Just to like, I'm like, oh my god, I'm eating my words right now. I'm like, I'm actually getting up and I'm doing it because I want to, and it's a habit now. Um, and I'm embodying what I want to do now, and I'm feeling it. I'm really getting into it. I'm enjoying the journey, even though it's difficult. I'm not gonna. The last month of me, I had a goal of like trying to work out uh every day. Oh well, not every day, like 5 to 6 days of the week, 45 minutes to an hour.
Mm,
And
wow.
and before, like remember we spoke about years ago, I couldn't even. I was struggling to do 15 minutes,
Let,
and
would you say, or can you identify the mental resistance, like the root of where the resistance was coming from?
I can tell you this right now. I think everything started changing when I realized I had severe ADHD, and also going into the somatic therapy. Once I started doing somatic therapy is when I started actually exercising at a longer. It made me. It gave me the space to be able to exercise. Exercise longer and take on more challenging exercises. Somatic therapy showed me that the resistance was coming from a disconnect of mind and body, and me not honoring my body and what it needs for me to perform.
Mm,
Because I noticed through a lot of my somatic exercises while I'm feeling my feelings that
mm,
there were certain parts of my body that had a lot of tension, stiffness, and pain, like my
mm,
back, my hamstrings, my stomach. And I was thinking to myself, how do I accommodate myself?
mm,
Because I thought to myself, not in a bad way, like when I was doing some of the somatic exercises, some of it has to do with like raising my arms. And while I was paying attention to the sensation of raising my arms and doing the exercise, I can feel the resistance, the weakness, the shivering. And I was thinking to myself, having grace and compassion, I want to be able to hug myself hard. I want to be able to hold my hand up and comfortably do so. I want to be able to engage my back in a comfortable manner, but not like in a fix it way, but a accommodating way. And like I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to accommodate myself. So I was like, okay, let me, along with walking, let me do back exercises to help with my posture so I can better support myself during somatic exercises. So doing somatic exercising has showed me, it made me, it's building a relationship with my body, if that makes sense.
it makes perfect sense. What I also hear, and you can let me know if I'm offline. Also, what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling is that it's the actual you're doing, and when I looked at all your messages and I've been looking at your feedback from your workouts, I said, oh my gosh, I said, you're really, I have children right now, you're really doing the work. You're really doing the work of what is often skipped over, what is missed, what is nuanced, what is not discussed, what is not pretty, what can't be skipped over, but is often skipped over. So it's one of the reasons why many of us are on this trajectory, like on a hamster wheel for years, right? We're adding more things, buying more things, but somehow we never get to the root. We're praying, we're burning sage, but we're still not getting to the root. So it is really humbling to hold space for somebody that is taking on the courage of sitting with their emotions, sitting with their feelings, allowing and giving themselves permission to feel. It sounds so simple, but it's not, right? And so the somatic exercises, what I hear is like, it's really like a grounding, right? Rather than just being in your head or intellectualizing or feeling like right or wrong, all of those things are still like glossed over. It's still not going through the process of becoming embodied in your body at the same time with your awareness, your internal dialogue at the same time. That is so nuanced, it's so precious, and it's something that you can't skip over. It's nothing that somebody can do for you. So it's uncharted territory, right? And you've been a long time on this path. It's such confirmation that all the all the endeavors, all the efforts, everything that you've tried, none of the work that you've done, even if you might feel, in our own mind, you may feel like a stop and start or they're failures, none of it has gone to waste. None of
Um,
ways. So I'm just really, you are really, really, I just can't emphasize enough, you are really doing the work, really slow and steady. And, as I said before, when you do it slow and steady, it sticks. It's yours for a lifetime. It belongs to you, as well as the feedback of quote unquote failure or miss the mark. That means more so than miss the mark or failure, there's something else that was missing or not understanding the process or fully engaging in the process. There's still no perfection now, but there's such a shift in your mindset. There's such a shift um, due to all your accumulated experience. There's such a shift due to you having the courage to keep showing up when maybe your ego might have wanted numerous times to stop. So I really just wanted to acknowledge you. Like this is a major shift. Major shift.
Thank you. And thank you for sticking it out with me. I know it's been a couple of years, but like I do agree with what you're saying about like I don't think I used to feel shame and guilty about like it's been so many years and I'm like I'm failing, but I'm not. I realize that I am where I'm supposed to be cuz over the last couple of days I do a lot of reflection. I'm thinking like I'm over here doing an hour exercise and I was like blown away like but I was struggling to do 15 minutes and now I'm thinking about the in between. I'm like what I was doing in between was necessary, like the whole reparenting, buying a bike, going to the park, buying a Christmas tree, like honoring the things I needed as a child. That also helped, me taking the time to process trauma. And that took a minute. Me working on being consistent. And what you had said about the walking, about it being a gateway and it also being somatic exercise. And I'm like, from the walk-in, I started doing some other, the somatic exercise, and then from the somatic exercise, it was like another gateway into actual movement. And now I see what you mean. It's not me simply listening to what you're saying to me. I understand what you mean by when you say that you never regret a workout, if that makes sense. Now I actually feel it, and I was actually.
The movement practice, right? Because that's what conditions say, it's a workout. But it's not just a workout. That's part, it's like that's why words are powerful, and I make the effort, I strive to reframe and just like you're grounding yourself in your body, we can take the time. We can use everything at our disposal and without lying to ourselves, right? We can use the language to help us feel more grounded, like, okay, that's it. like finding a language for what we're experiencing. So it's not just a workout. You're breathing, you're being present, um, you're allowing emotions, whether it's guilt, shame, all of that stuff to come up to the surface because it's there. So you're allowing and holding space for yourself. It's so much bigger than a workout. Workouts like diets, they a lot of times don't last, so they don't fully encompass all of what's going on and all of what we're experiencing, right? It's such a bigger, more profound experience that's happening. It's not just a workout. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say the context that I frame the workout is self-administered therapy. We all need therapeutic exercises, movement, therapeutic um, communications that are soothing, that are supportive, that are challenging, that's challenging our thoughts. That just like we challenge the muscle to grow, we're challenging ourselves to grow past the primal security system, right? The security system is often what we're operating from. Though the security system, our security system, or what I call our ego, our security system, has the programming for the security system that's internalized has been set in motion from childhood and our formative years, right? Our security system is an imprint on our psyche that has received more feedback, from society and from trauma. So it is running on automatic pilot. That is usually what is driving our decision-making process. It is humbling. Sometimes we might feel embarrassed, allow that to come up. We have all these different emotions around, and this may sound a way, I'm just going to frame it this way. It's one way to look at it, of not being in control of our mind. And when I say mind, the context, I mean mind is our mental conditioning, right? Our reactive behavior, our mindless. We are not present. We are quite often disembodied, not present, dysregulated. We didn't even have a language for this. There was no language for that. I could intuit that, but there wasn't a language, and a language can help us approach have more access to what's happening, organize it in our brain. Go ahead.
I agree. I remember years ago, and we talk about one. I have to add this in real quick. I'm so thankful that we kept going over the same subjects, and like always, we always interconnect the subjects because each and every time we would go over the same topics over and over again, I always get a little tidbit of information, like the nuance and context. This kind of goes into what I wanted to say just now, which was, um, I'm currently reading books on like ADHD, right? And I realized because I said in the group a couple of years ago about like how my emotions were either high or low, and the way that my mind acts, or my state of my mind at the time was like a hurricane or a storm, and I couldn't control it.
Mm.
And I didn't understand what was going on, and I was frightened, and I was scared, and I felt shame and guilt. It was a lot of stuff going on. So not only did I have my mind was all over the place, but I was dealing with like a lot of you know internal issues, health issues with the overactive mind. The more I learn about it, and I know that I don't want to stick with a label, right? I understand that that the ADHD books are just a tool, because I made my mind up over a month ago that I don't care that I have ADHD, CPTSD, or anxiety or depression. It's not going to stop me from living the life I want. The moment I made up my mind, the moment I realized that the books are a tool, and that the whatever condition I have is not the whole representation of who I am as a person, is the moment that I started making moves. And I stopped thinking about it too.
I have chills because we spoke about this years ago. So important distinction, right? Two things. The principle, like that comes across from yoga, like the same yoga practice, right? As well as distinction of ADHD and your identity, right? So something that happened to us, or something, let's say if one leg is shorter than the other, or we process information differently than somebody else, which we all do, whether it has a label or not. that is not who we are, right? So to make those distinctions, because quite often when we're younger, and we don't have support or folks that are educated or they don't have a vested interest, it is easy for, whether it's intentional or not, for issues that we're dealing with to become our identity. And then there's a narrative that's handed to you where you will start to feel like something's wrong with me, or I'm insignificant, or I'm at a deficit. So that's like an important, like, that's a click, right? Really making that distinction. Okay, this is like, one leg is shorter, or I process information differently. So I really hear you not taking it on as your identity. Right?
It's not I'll say this, as a child, I slipped through the cracks. Like when they were talking about ADHD, it was always the children that were hyperactive that were actually supported. And back then I was told that I was slow, and I'm not, of course not. But I couldn't, I wasn't in a supportive environment. My mother didn't know better. The school didn't care. No one, I slipped through the cracks. I was a child. I had no reference of what was going on.
Where did you first hear that term slow?
Elementary school.
What person? What was an adult, a person of authority, a doctor? Who used that term?
Okay, so it was both a teacher and a doctor. What happened was when I was younger, no context. I never was in a safe environment. My mom was being actively abused by my stepfather. We had housing, food issues. There was a lot of violence going on in the household. So when I went to school, right, and the teacher would be teaching, I would they would call on me, and I would not listen. Well, basically my teachers would say that I was daydreaming a lot, which was true, and that I would space out a lot, right? And so they told my mother about it, and she ended up taking me to the a specialist or the hospital to get my hearing checked and to see if my intelligence, something was wrong with my intelligence. I passed all the tests, nothing was wrong with my hearing, nothing was wrong with my attention. And then, instead of my mom being supportive, she was ashamed that I made her look bad in front of other people. So she kind of like cursed me out for passing the test and not being what the teachers said I was, but it's true though. When I daydream, and I still kind of do, I disassociate or maladaptive daydreaming. Um, I was disassociating because the environment I was raised in was hostile. So when I went to school and I was sitting there and the teacher would teach, I would go into another part of my mind and I would daydream about, characters, because I'm creative too. Like I'm a really creative person. So I would dream about cartoons, art, painting, being in a better situation, having a loving family. You could name it. I had worlds going on in my head. So while the teacher was teaching, I didn't hear nothing. I was elsewhere. And so anyway, they because of me daydreaming a lot, they never got to the root of it. I didn't know better at the time. Um I was told that I was slow. I do have delayed processing because sometimes I would speak to people, people would speak to me and I don't get it for, it will take about like 20 or 30 seconds after they said something to me for me to understand what they're saying. So sometimes I will have people repeat it. Like I would talk to somebody, they will say something and I was like, oh, I didn't process it. So I would have them repeat it to me because I didn't get it. But then later on, I understand what they were saying because then I'll replay it. So I do have delayed processing. That's part of the whole ADHD thing, but it's also connected to anxiety. If I'm anxious, I can't hear you.
Pause for 1 second. That's one thing I wanted to
I
interject.
know I'm going too fast again.
No, it's okay. You're not going too fast. I just wanted to just pause for a second. First of all, I have, it's really something that I have, well, this context, right? Reframing. I have delayed processing. In contrast, I'm trying to think of how it feels. Because you are a being, I experience delayed processing, right? If you are at home and you're surrounded, right? Let's say we're in the Gaza Strip and there's all kinds of violence happening around us. It's actually quite intelligent for your body to respond, right? If you can't get away physically, then as a survival mechanism, the human body is going to retreat, right? If there's violence, somebody coming to you right now, you can't move. you will turn inward, your attention inward, almost like to not be present to what is happening around you. So the fact that you're still able to do that, that's like, that makes perfect sense. And it's really from a space of ignorance. And I would even say it's dehumanizing to say that somebody's slow when they're being protective, their body, and again, your security system, right? Your body is wired for survival, to make sense, right, of an environment that's volatile, so that you can survive, so you can be okay. You're trying to make sense as a child of what's going on around you, and witnessing all kinds of things from irresponsible adults that are actually putting you in harm's way. So it just made me, as you was expressing, I'm thinking, is that slow, or is that human? That I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you were saying, because I just came from people throwing plates and pots every day. That's become normal, and I have to move around it and still get dressed and put some Vaseline on my face and put my hat on and go to school. Is that slow?
It's not.
It's because it's almost like, almost feel like, I don't know if the was coming up is like the acknowledgement. Maybe another sense, I would even say a word I think of is the mourning, not to stay in mourning, but to really acknowledge that part of our innocence that was tampered with in our formative years, based on sometimes the ignorance of parents, of what we were exposed to that was out of our control. And then on top of it, we were handed a label because we're trying to survive and make sense in a dangerous environment. Dangerous not just physically, because usually we looked at physically, but emotionally, right? Mentally, right? It made us extra sensitive and hyper vigilant, right?
You
So we get to acknowledge and mourn for that, that part of us that was lost, the innocence and the curiosity. It's like if bombs are going off, you start responding. You might get a twitch. If you was in a war, some people get a reaction from here. That's a lot of trauma on the nervous system, to the body, to the brain, in your formative years. So I'm just feeling like,
can I add something else to it? They they said it around 5, when I was like 5 years old. But as I went through schooling, one thing I did notice was, okay, one thing I don't like about the education system is that they have you memorize and repeat as a form of learning. And as I got older, I realized that I learned through patterns and colors and shapes. I organize information differently. And by the time I was in like 7th or 8th grade, I was already in what do they call them again? Like advanced classes for high school. Um AP classes. I think it's called AP classes.
advanced.
Um yeah, and it's funny because I'm like, how is it that I was considered slow in 5th grade, but by the time I get to 8th grade, I'm in AP classes for high school. And the only reason why I was in those classes is because
Let's answer that. Let's answer that now with more information. Let's actually answer that. How was it that there were adults that were calling you slow? Because, for example, you didn't hear what they said, because in your mind you're creating characters to self-soothe coming from a volatile environment. So how is it now that you eventually were in advanced placement? Advanced placement means that you do have your function, your ability to process information, whether it's math or arts, through your senses, right? There is like, that would say gifted. So answer that question. How is that able to happen?
what the irony is I think it's connected to the ADHD, because I had a motivation. I wanted to get into an art high school, and I needed to have certain grades. So I had to actually sit down and creatively figure out how to memorize the information for me to uh pass the test. And again, I would group information. Listen, I know this is gonna sound weird, but I don't read letters. I memorize the shape of it, and I know that is connected to this information. Like, I don't read. I would see. I did this exact same thing when I went into dental assistant school, and there was a lot of terminologies for like different parts of the face, the teeth, or like numbers. I would not see the word. I just see it as a symbol, and I know it's connected to that teeth. Like the this is the molar, and I know that this terminology and this number is connected to the teeth. You see what I'm trying to say? I don't see the word. I see a symbol.
High level of functioning. That is actually high functioning, right? You know what the Rosetta Stone is?
Uh, I think I remember it's like it has all different languages on it.
The hieroglyphs, right? When they were
Yeah.
trying to decode, right, all the different glyphs and the pictures, and in Kemet or Egypt, it took centuries to be able to decode that, for somebody to see the patterns and the symbols. Even now, when they dig up old glyphs and pictures before they were letters, right? For somebody to decode that, somebody has to be at a high level of function. They have teams of people to come in to be able to do that. So that's the type of functioning that you have creatively from a young age. That's different than I memorized the letter and I'm repeating it. It's still just processing in a slightly different way.
It is, and I'm remembering now. In my notebook, I would use different colors because I believe it or not, I don't care what anybody say, but I can read colors. I can feel symbols and read colors. The reason why I said is this: when I was breaking apart the whole scale, not the scale. I'm sorry, the whole skull for the whole to like go over the test and whatever. I would color code pieces of the skull, and when the teacher said, "Oh, your mandible," I would think red.
Mm.
Does that make sense? Like I would, this is how I was doing things. And I didn't have the language or the understanding at the time. I was just motivated and persistent because I really wanted a certain outcome. Um and I'm thinking about it now, like there's a lot of situations in my life where when I was calm, collected and motivated, that's when this is why I don't think ADHD is a bad thing or the way that I was thinking. When I was calm, collected, and I wasn't like, traumatized or anxious or depressed, my ADHD was like a superpower. I was able to use it at a high level and people would think, and the funny thing is, I had people in college and in the dental assistant program tell me, "Oh, you're smart." And I'm like, "I'm not. I'm just persistent. I'm really not. I just figured out a way to incorporate the information that I
Say that you're not quote unquote smart, because
well,
to me that's highly intelligent. For somebody to think in colors and to think, okay, to figure out, that's problem solving. That's like complex problem solving. That's highly intelligent.
I never thought of it that way. I just thought
Yeah,
it was just a tool.
based on would that be based on because you're not doing things how the other people around you are doing it, and also if it's being reinforced with rewards or pretzels or stickers, you know what I'm saying? If you're not doing it the way everybody else is, it's not being affirmed or rewarded. But that's actually highly intelligent.
I thought it was okay. I have a really my short term memory is not that good, but but like when it comes to my creative side of my brain, if I attach knowledge to it, I can recall faster. So I don't rely on memorization as much as I rely on other. You're right. I know I'm not stupid. I know I'm smart. It's just that when people meet me, um, they because I ramble a lot or I don't have the social skills or I come off not confident, they think I'm stupid. I know I'm not, but like
I would invite you to consider this. We've been working with each other for a couple of years. I invite you to consider I invite you to consider swapping that perspective, because based on experience, anytime I have encountered you in this setting and other social settings and learning settings and coaching settings, you're offering, and this is not just me, this has been several other people that are much older than you, a generation older than you. The pattern has been consistent in terms of your expression, your clarity, your enthusiasm. So I invite you, right? Because everything registers in the subconscious. I invite you to consider writing that down, what you just said. I'm not smart because whatever, and swapping that out, because your intelligence, your strengths are just simply in another area. that's
You
high.
know, you got me talking because I just realized that what I said was pre-programming from other people.
It's just conditioning. That's all it is. It's conditioning, and when you can get some space, right, which is, a really uh, beneficial aspect of the coaching dynamic, right? Is to get reflection, because even when we're reading and we're getting insight, usually it's just us, and we also are inside of our own mind, mental conditioning, with our essence and our ego, our internal compass guiding our way, right? And then also the ego, which is deeply ingrained in condition. We're not gonna make it bad or wrong. It's just conditioned to whatever is conditioned. We start feeling that as bad, that's gonna make us feel a certain kind of way. In contrast to, for example, thinking it's effective or ineffective, right? Because the feeling bad sets up like a cascade of emotions that are the emotions are driving the actions. The emotions are also working with that security system, right? That's always on alert, right? Because also judgment and critique can register subconsciously in terms of the emotions that come up, can register as unsafe. If I get judged, then what's going to happen? I don't pass the test, what's going to happen? I get a bad report, I'm not going to, what's going to happen? How's it going to affect me in my ability to eat and to feed myself? That's going to worry my mother. You see, it's going to set a whole cascade of events that also is going to contribute to us feeling anxiety. And then that anxiety has to be kind of quelled some way, so it contributes greatly to self-medication. Does this make sense?
It does. Okay, I wanted to tell you something about the whole somatic exercises. I realized something while I was doing it, right? I do have a hyperactive mind, right? And I have said on several occasions that I feel a lot of different intense emotion, especially overwhelm. The one thing I've noticed with somatic exercise is that it helps me not only release trapped emotions, but it helps to slow down my mind and prime me for more challenging exercises. Like it really does soothe. It's like the somatic exercise kind of primes and warms up my body and gets me ready for like lifting my kettlebell or some sort of aerobic exercise. And without I need to do it beforehand because I noticed I tried to do it one time without doing the somatic exercise and I realized that I felt anxious, jittery, tight, stiff. My mind was swirling all over the place. But once I finished the activity of the somatic exercise, I was calm, collected. I was more in tune with my body, and I was able to actually take the time to concentrate on my exercise, whatever movement that I wanted to do that day. So,
So,
like, it does help with the.
excuse me, that aspect of your movement practice, right? Because it is a part. Let me talk about your personal movement practice. So again, you see the principle of personalizing it. Right? That's necessary. Like some people can jump right into the exercise. Some people need a warm up. So you're very clear now that I need to prime myself. Even when you hold a certain grounding, that priming is grounding you, helping you to be present. Then you can go into other stuff. So you found yet again another tool, right? So you can access to doing the things that you want to do in life. You found a tool that's yours forever. It's experiential. You've tried so many different things, and now you have a body of evidence, a body of patterns as to this and this equals this. Not doing somatic exercise and not grounding myself, I distinctly feel anxiety. My mind is swirling. Taking the time to prime myself with breathing, with hugs, with walking, it puts me in another state. So now you've actively found a therapeutic practice which has leverage to it. So in terms of the walking and the somatic exercise being a gateway, it makes perfect sense.
Oh, and I forgot also stretching. I have to stretch for at least 20 minutes or 30 minutes at a time. Deep, slow stretches where I pay attention to how my body feels all before any activity. It's somatic with walking, somatic stretching, and then I can do other things. Like I'm starting to get a
To have like a language and some specific tools now, because now it's not your first time trying it out, right? How do you
no.
have like tools and a way to approach and to work with yourself? Uh-oh, you still there, Lily?
Well, I'm still here.
Yeah, so how does it feel to have a language to organize it, right? And tools now to approach working with yourself, right? So you can be able to do the things that are important to you, right? The gateway now to exercise, the gateway to grounding yourself when you're under stress. How does it feel to have tools and a language for it? To in contrast, many years ago, you didn't have those tools, you didn't have that clarity.
Honestly, I feel unstoppable. I feel so hyped up. I feel so it's insane. Like I look forward to it. Even the difficult days where I can't do certain movements or I'm stiff or I'm sore. I just I feel unstoppable. I know intuitively without even seeing the results that I'm gonna, I'm gonna get where I wanna go. I'm gonna be what I wanna be.
Wow. I think you might shut down my coaching session.
I'm not perfect. I still got some stuff that I'm working on.
That's such a when I'm talking about leverage activities, leverage, that's exactly what I mean, right? To say because it's a difference between sometimes do you think I can lose weight? Do you think I can? Even if it's not perfect, it's the difference between thinking and trying and doing and knowing. Thinking, I hope, I wish, I pray, thinking about it, ruminating about it, in contrast to doing and doing imperfectly and now a knowing, because when you know, then it's a whole nother level of confidence, still imperfect, right? We're able to make a whole nother level of you have a whole nother level of access to progress.
That is actually really true. I feel like it's kind of okay. I know the level I'm at right now feels kind of like the same level I'm at with art. Like once I got really into it, I didn't want to stop, right? And I feel like with the movement practices that I have been doing, I'm so into it, I don't want to stop. Like today, I haven't done anything. I haven't stretched. I haven't gone anywhere or done anything besides stuff around the house. But like it kind of feels foreign not to stretch or do my somatic exercise or do some sort of weightlifting. And I'm like, that's progress. That means if I feel awkward not doing it, it means that it's ingrained and now it's part of me. What I my aim was I want to do this for the rest of my life until I don't breathe anymore. And another part of the goal was um I wanted to be like the one thing I like about the movement practices that I've been doing lately, I feel like I'm building a relationship with myself, like a healthy one. Not like just affirmations. Like I'm actually feeling myself. And I'm listening. I know what it really means to listen to my body and what it wants, to honor it and to, be compassionate, to, you know, and to feel I'm enthusiastic. I have a lot like of things that I want to work on, but like not in a negative way. I'm enthusiastic about the change that may occur.
Mm. Hmm. Slow and steady, slow and steady. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. It's such a confirmation, right? Because folks, it's very easy for folks as humans to get upset. I should, because the ego, like I should be here. I've been studying this long. I've been taking this many classes. I should be here. Just to give yourself the space, to hold space, because it's easy to abandon ourselves, to abandon ship, like many of the sometimes our caretakers in ignorance or just in negligence have abandoned us. So in our formative years, we've learned to abandon ourselves. We won't stick it through when we're uncomfortable. We won't, it's like your mom leaving you at the park.
I actually have a comment on that one.
Mm.
I through somatic let me slow down because I'm overly excited. Through somatic exercise, I realized while I was in burnout and survival mode that I was completely disconnected from my body. And how would I say this? I lost my train of thought. I was disconnected. What was I gonna say?
You're saying you're very disconnected from your body, and you realize something with the somatic exercise.
Oh, okay. with somatic exercise, I realized that I don't know, I through the connection, um, through somatic exercise, I was able to thrive. I'm not actually surviving anymore. Like I
Mm,
feel like I'm alive now, like because I actually can feel everything. I explain it. I just had the train of thought. I hate when that happens.
it's okay.
Um, I'm gonna remember 2 minutes later. That's how it'll be. That's how it works out. Anyway, though, I feel like, oh, now I remember. The disconnection. I realized that feeling my emotions and not burying them and not ignoring them has been the greatest breakthrough, because I realized, like I had said before, that I have a lot of anxiety in my stomach and a lot of stress and anger in my back. And I noticed, and I remember sitting saying to you about 3 weeks ago that I felt like, right after somatic exercise, that I felt very tender, very sensitive. And I realized that's my natural state. I actually I feel deeply. I'm so used to feeling so sensitive now that it's not, I thought it was just me being feeling irritated, but it's not me being irritated. It was just me being in myself in that moment. I'm like very sensitive to my surroundings, around people.
Mm,
And and the reason why it felt like an irritation, because it was not something I'm used to. I'm
mm,
not used to feeling my emotions real time while being calm.
mm,
um and it's not a negative thing. And if anything, it's actually a great thing, because that sensitiveness, when I'm around other people and I actually calm down and actually watch them, I pick up on people's mannerisms, their emotions. I actually see a lot more. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't even notice. I can literally tell within 2 minutes someone doesn't like me, and I'm okay with that. I'm just saying, I like, before, when I was anxious and disconnected and wasn't in tune with my emotions, I would completely ignore it or not notice it until later on. That just goes back into the delayed processing stuff. But
mm,
the moment that I was in the moment and connected to all my feelings, is when I was able to properly maneuver around, or be around people, maneuver and be around people. So, like what you were saying before, like, don't, like, going back to the whole label things, don't say that I am delayed process or something like that. Like, it's just a state of being, and that it can change, because I've noticed that.
I said that you can't say. You can say anything you want to say, but I invite you to try on for size. And I'm making that distinction because, again, in terms of working with our psyche, right? When you feel you have to do something or it's pass or fail, it shows up as pressure, right? It can show up as pressure, which can lead to us being resistant to doing something. In contrast to, I could do that, but I could also try on a different way. And now we're working with something that you can't see, right? With your own psyche. So to try on and to see, like, the key clue is how, without lying to yourself, how the different words that you're using to express, how they're making you feel. If it makes you feel anxious, like when I think of like rest in contrast to fasting, I know what the word means, but when you think of, like, you know what, let me listen to my body. Do I need to eat right now? Um, did I digest my food, or do I need to take a rest right now? And then I can come back and eat. It's more time for me to eat more food later. You see, so how we're expressing or dialoguing with our own internal voice, our psyche, is really, really important because of how it's stimulating emotions, and those emotions will drive behaviors and actions. Does that make
That's
sense?
true. It does. And going back with the whole fasting and eating thing,
Mhm.
like the other day around 1 o'clock in the morning, I woke up with hunger pains. And I calmly said to myself that I ate all the nutrients that I needed for the day, and that I have extra fuel on my body. There's no reason that I need to eat right now. So I just got up and drank like a cup of water, and then within like 15 minutes the hunger pains went away. Like, I'm learning that you can train or condition your body. you know the hunger pains weren't permanent. It's kind of like I was showing myself real
Hold on,
time.
question that, because right, because today our topic is out of control craving. So when you say a hunger pain, elaborate on that. What is that physically? What exactly is a hunger pain?
Well, for me, it was like this strong feeling in my stomach of being hungry. I know I explained. It's like my stomach is like it hurts. It's like irritating. It's like an irritation in my stomach. It's throbbing. Um, it's an urge to want to eat.
Okay,
Um,
for a second. So let's just try something on. Let's just try on. Not right on. Let's just say, so we have extra fuel stored on the body, a good amount of extra fuel, right? There's energy and then there's fuel, right? Exercise can give you energy. Going to nature can give you energy. But I'm talking about straight fuel. So fuel that's not used, how is it stored in the body?
adipose tissue.
Adipose. So we have pounds of extra fuel because the body can actually access that, that extra fuel to do different things, right? The different things it needs energy for. So I don't want to lose my train of thought. I was inviting you to consider swapping the way that you frame that, right? If there's another way that you can frame that gives you more access to possibilities. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there another way that you could perhaps frame that?
I usually say to myself, if I'm hungry in the middle of the night, I just probably need water, and I just drink it and go to sleep.
So
I don't.
here's my stomach, right? Here's my stomach rippling, right? And it's hungry. The walls of my stomach. What if the walls of your stomach were just coming together back to their natural size? Maybe perhaps we haven't felt what it feels like as it shrinks, because the stomach is actually small. Quite often we're eating and distending it, right? The stomach is small. A lot of times we're seeing here is inflammation, water, and adipose tissue, right? So what if it's just what we're calling hunger? Let's just say it was just the stomach walls coming back to the original space. If we have enough fuel, we have fuel, food stored as fuel inside the body. So technically, as I said, technically we shouldn't be hungry. And when you also consider years of the way that we've been eating when it comes to cravings and out of control cravings, right? If someone is obese, and I have a lot of morbid obesity in my family and community, if the person is morbidly obese, are they starving? Don't they have a lot?
Um, already starving. I remember you saying that it could possibly, it can be, you can have a lot of adipose tissue and then lack nutrients, like be nutritionally
Yes, you can be
def.
starving for nutrition, even in the presence of excess calories. So most people, when we are hungry, are not going to pick up greens and celery. Those are probably some of the very foods that we need, in addition to the living water that's in those foods. So you see, like, there's been a lot of training and conditioning around food. The stories and the I want to use the word propaganda, but the conditioning that we've had around food and how do we denote hunger, right? Most of us are not really in danger of hunger, right? People in countries where they're being deprived of overall nutrition, where food is not getting in, where they have swollen stomachs and they're getting very specific diseases from being deprived of overall calories. Their bodies actually, as an example, their body's emaciating, which is a sign of cannibalism, not cannibal, but cannibalism, which is muscle wasting. So even though their stomach is swollen, and you can see a lot of times people's ribs, you can see their body is wasting, right? Now that's hunger. That's somebody that's truly hungry and low energy. You rarely, I don't know if you found that in the United States. So what we have is dysregulated blood sugar, because technically, why are we hungry if we have all this excess fuel? Technically, we should not be hungry. But those distinctions are not given to us as anything. We're offered to cut pieces of our intestines out, or we're giving drugs to try to alter different parts of our brain to control the appetite. But what's not being offered is, how do I regulate my blood sugar, right? How do I get my body to access the fuel that's already stored? Because I have a lot of excess fuel. How can I feel? How can the feelings of hunger or cravings for more sugar, out of control cravings for specific types of foods, not necessarily nutrition, how can we buffer or mitigate cravings for specific types of food, usually like sugar or sugar, salt, and fat, over nutrition? How can I get my body to tap into the fuel that is stored on board so it can access it where I can be calm, cool, and collected, and I can have the experience like, wow, I feel really energized. My body's pulling on the fuel that I already have stored on me. Is this making sense?
Yes, it does. I've noticed when I get up in the morning to do my morning walk, I have to drink water first, of course, and I do notice that I have more clarity and energy after the walk. And I can, in some cases, extend my rested fast.
Mm-hmm. So,
Um,
pause. So, would that be energy or fuel?
um,
Access it for that walk, energy or fuel?
I,
Or both?
I think it's both because I do get energized from the walk.
Yeah,
And then it's fuel because I do think I'm burning fat.
well, let's say, because see, we're conditioned to say fat. How about stored fuel? You see how
Stored.
it's like when I think of, not, to take away from anybody's eating meat, but we say meat, it was often, the term that's usually often used is meat, so we don't have to think about the fact that we're eating like decomposing a decomposing carcass, right? So the term that we're given to identify is meat. It's actually a decomposing carcass, right? That's a whole nother connotation, that's a whole nother set of emotions and feelings depending on the words that you're using. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right, because if I think of eating, let's say I refer to it as, not to grocery, let's say I refer to it as rotting flesh, right? Because when an animal, when they're, or a being, a sentient being, when they're unalived or they don't have any more life force around the body, it starts to decompose immediately, right? And then all kinds of parasites and maggots, different, it's starting to decompose, right? We're not even really aware of the treatments. I think it's a carbon monoxide, but there's a type of treatment that the flesh of the animals go through so that it's still red as you're walking around inside and looking moist and meaty as if it was just cut as it's sitting in the refrigerator. It has gone through some processing. Like, even we talked about this, like the coconut. If I make coconut cream right now, which I'm going to make coconut cream in a little bit, it's hot. It's probably 85 going on 90 degrees. It's going to start to rot. It's going to go through different change. It can sit for a little while, but it's going to start to rot. Any fresh foods are going to start to rot. So you want to eat the foods that are fresh, that are going to rot. If you're eating the food for shelf life, which is for profit, so you can distribute more, hold it on the shelf, distribute it to more people for profit, that stuff stays on the shelf. The longer it stays, the more it is profit. Yes or no?
Yeah.
It's not me making it up. So it's kind of like a paradigm shift. I think it's humbling and kind of shocking just how deeply and easily we can be conditioned, right? Where we're not, as we might think we're thinking actively, but it's like the meanings and narratives have already been given to us, so we don't question. Right? Even if you think to question, somebody, a teacher or an adult usually shuts you up. So we don't really think. Even children, infants can pick up on certain things. Some things they're ignorant to, they don't have a language. Some things they can pick up on with smells and with touch. But we don't think very deep. We don't question a lot of stuff we ingest into our body. Even the fact, as women, I just saw some statistics again today, not new, that the rates, I don't know if they said, it was just some astronomical number. No, it was 50% of the new HIV cases are mostly Black women. I've been saying this, I've spoken about this for years, but it's still not registering. Why? The conditioning, we've been desensitized due to the entertainment, right? So it's not shocking that we're dying from our intimate relations and our interactions with people unsafely through a lack of a vetting process. So how is it we would put ourselves in harm's way? That's because we have a strong belief system. The belief system has been conditioned and it's installed. So who wants to admit that? You know, intelligent humans that pay rent and have several degrees, right? The cravings, again, if we break it down to a basic level, technically we shouldn't be hungry if we have extra food stored in the body. Then why are we hungry, right? But we don't question. We're constantly being shown commercials all day for more things to eat. Not strawberries, not commercials for strawberries, not commercials for fresh blueberries, not commercials for sweet potatoes. It's for more products and foodstuffs and things that are high. We say highly processed, but it's not. There's even a disconnection with the language that we're using in the context of the language. This is making sense what I'm saying?
It does. And I was actually thinking about like the correlation between, when I was in a relationship and how I felt after, disconnecting, and how I felt. It was a codependent relationship, but like
I'm
it was
listening.
addictive. It was addictive. I felt like I was gonna die if I wasn't partnered. Um, I was frightened. It was weird. Like I felt like my heart broke. It was like a weird feeling of addiction that I did not know how to handle. And I feel like when I became abstinent, and I took the time to let that feeling, dissipate, and I'm looking between the two states of mind, and I realized that when I was partnered, part of that was conditioning of how I was raised and how I should be as a woman in a relationship. And now that I've been abstinent and I've been working on myself and growing as a person, and I know what I wanted, I'm learning that what I wanted from that relationship was connection, intimacy, not the physical intimacy, but like actual connection, bonding, and intimacy that a relationship could provide. I wanted support, I wanted community, and I was using sexual activity as a means to get that. But it was like the sex was like it wasn't the nutrient I needed. And I'm thinking in the correlate.
Where did you learn, or where did you get the message that that's how you would get the intimacy? Where was that instruction, or where was that inferred to you? Where did that come from?
um the culture, the Caribbean culture, society's expectations of how I'm supposed to perform as a woman. My mother, like, I didn't have any other example of um being outside of being coupled, if that made sense.
And
Um,
nothing necessarily wrong with being coupled, but remember the six basic fears: fear of poverty, old age, death, illness, loss of love or never finding love, and criticism, aka judgment. Right? One that's a primal fear, fears of human beings. Loss of love or never finding love. How does that register to the nervous system? The panic of being alone, being vulnerable, no protection, no psychological protection, no nurturing. Make sense?
yeah, but you can get that without being sexually active. I'm
But
just
how
saying.
do you know that when that's being reinforced? That's the messaging that's all the music. You watch interactions, even if you thought different. What's being modeled for you, even on the surface, because most people won't talk about this, is that's how you get nurturing and love. You give your body up. That's what was modeled for us. That's what's on TV. That's what we consume by that. It's push, push, push. So how could you know anything different?
That's true. And that's why, forgiving yourself, like you didn't have the information at the time. But like, even the world is unforgiving and unfair. Like, if you don't know, this is how you get caught up with STDs. And you kind of can like kind of
Look at
correlate it to nutrition.
older women, the statistics. Half of the cases are black women. So what does that say? Now this is just my perspective, just my observation. I think culturally we refuse to acknowledge the connection of the entertainment. We refuse to take responsibility for our consumption. We refuse even with some of the music. Let's say for example, I grew up in hip hop. I like Nas. Like I like good hip hop. And my godmother said to me years ago, like with gospel and certain things, I was moving away from, Christianity as it was served to me. She said, you don't have to throw everything in the garbage. And she made us sing that song. I don't know if you remember the song, This Little Light of Mine,
Mhm.
right? It seemed so corny back then, but she told me to sing it to the God that dwells within you as you. Now, I took and expanded that, right? Because I realized, like, I really, really am a big lover of music. But when I really conscientiously from a young age, when I started listening to the lyrics, I was like, all of these lyrics of people cheating and treating each other like crap. I was like, this don't make no sense, right? So the thought of, let's say, like Mary J, I can't live without you. I was like, I can't be repeating this stuff because I realized it was actually messing with my emotions. So I extended what she said in terms of like gospel music, singing to the God within yourself. I expanded that to love songs. So now when I'm singing these love songs to myself, it doesn't feel tragic if I'm saying to my essence, my internal compass, I can't live without you. So you see how I reframed it? So back to Nas, I was listening to, it's this, the music, a lot of times the beats are infectious and they are infectious and they get you amped up. So it's, he has a song, Made You Look. He's like, they shoot and made you look. Now, I came from that same neighborhood, right? And I've known a lot of people who during the crack age who was shooting and people died. So I had, in order for me to process that song, because it had me getting amped up, in my mind, I actually had to reframe it. Like, what did I say? Shooting for the stars or what? I just reframed it, right? Now, there's some other songs he has, and I was like, man, the beat is so hot. But I was like, this is a no bueno, right? Was it Shorty, say what's your price? Just to back it up, you can hold my ice. So how much, that was like, this sounds like straight prostitution. Shorty to a young lady, if you back it up on me, I'll let you hold my necklace. I can't totally reframe that one. You know what I'm saying? There's like an interrupt because I'm not listening passively. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then I'm not throwing all my memories away or things that are infectious that are affecting my nervous system. I have found for me it has been necessary to reframe them. If I want to salvage something in a way where I'm not lying to myself, but I can't really justify. For me, that might be different for somebody else, but I'm curating what I'm allowing in, and it's how it's coming in, and I'm challenging the narrative that is coming from, right? I'm not with. I could listen to that, but for me, I'm not with alcohol. I'm not with drugs. I'm not. I have never seen any positive outcomes. That's me. That's me being honest. But many of us will just accept it because that's the narrative, and it refers to our culture. So we won't disengage from things that are not beneficial to us. And I think we grossly underestimate the conditioning is coming from a lot of the entertainment as well as religion. So it's for me, I don't have illusion that I'm necessarily changing the world, but I'm so clear on how I've been affected, and I'm so clear on my formative years, my psyche has been conditioned, right? It's not that I'm above anybody else, but I'm just very aware and pretty vigilant about those autopilot behaviors. Because who do I study all the time? Drug addicts. So to understand how the psyche is working, we are affected by things that get us amped up, emotions, music, rhythms, scare attack, fearful things. It's deeply affecting us. And the nervous system is like it's happening over and over and over, where sometimes in ignorance, continue reinforcing things deeper and deeper.
You know,
In contrast to, like, we look at the principle, like in our movement practice, let's say of yoga, right? One of the styles of yoga I really like is Ashtanga yoga. Some people think it's boring, it's not exciting, you're doing the same thing over and over. However, context is everything. If you understand and comprehend, the instruction you're given is that it's a breathing meditation, it's a breathing practice first before the posture or the asana. So actually, even though on the surface, to the eye, it might look like you're doing everything, you're doing the same thing. It is different every single day because you're starting to observe where your breath is going, what's tight, even if it's a little bit, what's opening up. But the biggest thing is your mind. You start to become hyper aware of your mental conditioning. So somebody that's doing the practice, after a while, they become super aware that they're following, they're observing where their mind, their mental conditioning is going. And you're actually using that practice to recondition your mind. You become so curious about what your mind is doing. You keep coming to the mat, not just for the stretching and improving your circulation, but to deal with your own mind. Right? It's a tool which often we don't have. You lucky if you can find stuff when you're older, but we don't have from a young age. It's not modeled for us how to deal with your mind, right? In a way that's not passive. How can I actively on my own, right? I'm always talking about therapeutic practices that I can administer to myself. I need the therapy there. I need it. I need sunshine. I need sunshine, right? Makeup, it's a tool, but for myself, my well-being, I need some kind of sunshine. I need some kind of nature. I need some movement. I need it. I need some real food. I need those are needs for me to be well, for me to be able to function, love and be creative in this environment.
You know what I realized? I don't think I was ever behind, and I felt like I was behind the last couple of years. And then while I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about like my prior, from when I'm a child all the way to now as an adult. Like there was no point where we um exercising was never part of growing up or when I was in middle school, high school, college. If that
There
makes sense.
was
It was never a, it
there
was,
was dance classes or
well, no. In middle school or elementary school, I think up until sixth grade, they let us go out. And the school districts, they changed the policy because kids were getting into a lot of fights and they be fighting bad. Kids were actually getting hurt. So up until like sixth grade, we were able to go outside and play like wall ball and stuff like that. But the lunch period was like for 30 minutes. Um, and then, my mom will let us be outside for a little bit. But as we got older, there was no, yeah, we played as children, but it was never like a focus of how it was important and how it actually was part of our life, if that made sense.
it
Like,
makes sense. Also, even expanding on that, how it helps you, how you can use it if the teachers are not doing it. How can you transmit something that you don't know or that you don't practice, you don't use? So being able to process your emotions with movement, the context, going out to play because you are doing it. This is joyful play and exploration, but also now when it comes to working with your own psyche and your mental conditioning, how to identify feelings and emotions, how to move and flow to process that stuff.
I
Not
think you're right. I think what happened, I think in my school district, after a certain grade, they stopped letting us all go outside and we stayed in the cafeteria the whole time. And where I was,
that sound
where I,
crazy.
it
Yeah.
does. And it was, everybody had like pent up energy. The reason why my mom wanted us to go outside was because not only just to get free time for herself, but like we had a lot of energy when we were little. And going outside to play kickball, basketball, baseball was our way of processing our built up energy. And that's normal for children. But as we got older, we stopped doing that. And I noticed that around the time that I stopped being active as a kid is when I blew up. I
Mm,
got big. I was actually obese. I've been heavy since I was 13. Um and through high school we had gym, but again, they never really, there was no emphasis on your mental health or it being a lifestyle. It was just something you did to get you did to pass to graduate to go to college, and I did not exercise in college. So
but you
it's
see,
kind of,
context have been framed differently for you. Or let's say it was a supportive environment where y'all got to play and to explore different kinds of dance and try different types of activity, in teams or as individuals or just to express in a safe space. That's like life altering.
I see why certain parents had their kids in like in ballerina, soccer, and sports. Because the one thing I'm learning as I'm actually becoming a little bit more comfortable with movement is that it now hand eye coordination, like how I move in space. I am so clumsy, and I did not know, like with that. Now I'm doing more often. I'm more aware of myself in space, and I'm able to think clearer while moving in space.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of things that are going on at the same time. And I noticed, like yesterday while I was running, I would think of stuff and it would go away. I would think of stuff, it would go away, and then I would think of like I'll just be in my body for like a good 10 minutes. It's like it's a lot of things. You were right, a lot of things that are going on, but um I didn't have any context of that as I was younger. So I'm thinking about all the last 4 years. I'm like, I'm over here busting my chops. I'm like, you didn't have a running memory or conditioning of actually, having exercise as a lifestyle. So cut yourself some slack. You are where you're supposed to be because it took you. It's better to take the years to get to this point than not at all. Does that make sense? Like I get it. I'm not behind.
Say it's the movement practice, like kind of like a yoga practice. So in yoga, they say come to your mat every day because you're coming to the mat with your breathing and your breath, which is going to show you what's going on with your mind. So the same thing, you have your practices every day, your therapeutic lifestyle practices. You practice, you observe, you learning about your own mind, you observing your own mental conditioning, right? And then you have a space to come in and discuss it with other folks that are doing the same. No perfection at all. No perfection. It's an exploration. It's a learning about yourself. So like you said, deepening your relationship with your own being. You're deep in your relationship with your being, your presence, while you have a human suit on this 3D plane here and now. You're tapping into and aligning and listening actively rather than being passive, actively observing the looping thoughts, interjecting other thoughts. So it's not passive. And even I would say with coaching, it's easy, and I'm glad we have technology. So let's say folks can't, we have different time zones. Everybody can't be here at the same time. You can listen, but there's another dynamic when you're getting feedback, when you're actively engaged. There is a difference between being passive and being engaged. When you are engaging in the process, it can be more uncomfortable, it can be confronting, but it also can be exciting because you're getting a whole nother type of feedback that your ego usually is not going to give you. Your ego is just trying to keep you safe and comfortable. And it's that ego part of us. It has a purpose, right? Security system, but it registers most change as a threat and uncomfortable, and it usually is really driving the self-sabotage and the resistance to change.
I agree. I'm actually processing that right now with the whole I have a adversity to change for a lot of different things. Like I don't like change in a lot of different ways. I like predictability because it makes me feel better. But I realize that, at the same time, what's helping me deal with my fears is actually pivoting or making changes on the fly. Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
realizing it's not about because I have a fear of the future 'cause of the unknown, and I
Mm-hmm.
realize that thinking about what hasn't happened is not productive, and that I should focus on the present and make changes now, and that has really helped with anxiety, with rumination, with a lot of different things. Then there's nothing wrong with anxiety in a sense because it's there. It has a purpose as well. It's just that when it's unbalanced
Trying to
and
tell
I'm
you
doing too much.
anxiety, right? Your intelligence. What is your anxiety communicating to you, right? So that's an excellent question this week for the journal, right? What is your anxiety? Listen, rather than fighting it and trying to push it down, what is it communicating?
For me, anxiety, I think it stemmed from wanting absolute control,
If
being
you have
neurotic.
absolute control, what would that do?
I want the control because I want to feel safe, or I just don't want to deal with the unknown.
Bingo, big, right there. Well, you could go back and you could replay this because you just said 10 mouthfuls, right? So can you see now? You just unpacked to a large degree why, like, we're conditioned, like set up to self-sabotage. You just laid it out. Even if we know something is good for us, it's not registering as safe. The new territory, the new sensations in the body is registering as a threat to the status quo. So the ego part is usually going to try to stay the same. It's going to try because it registers as comfort. It's going to reach for comfort, even if the comfort is not beneficial to you, right? If it's toxic to you, but it's comfortable taste, you'll keep reaching for it. And so there are entities that understand that and will continue to market vices to us as
Um,
crutch,
I
but it never. Go ahead.
I think that's one of the reasons why, because I'm uncomfortable and anxious, and I'm looking for safety, is the reason why I keep um I'm not doing it currently, but in the past where I would stay in relationships because it was familiar. I was so afraid of the unknown and I had no control that I would go back to something unfamiliar. And I would gaslight myself by saying, oh, maybe this time it will change, or maybe this person will, I can change them, they will change, but then I will still have the same thing happen to me. And I would re traumatize myself as opposed to just going into the unknown and finding something that may actually work better for me.
Think that what you just said. That's like that's so profound, right? When we're saying I can change someone, what part of our intelligence is that? Would that be your essence, or would that be your ego? I can, because if we're trying to change someone, trying to control the outside environment, other people, they got their own stuff going on. Can we change somebody?
No.
But that comes up automatically, right? Because the job of the ego is to, even if it's not telling the truth. It's just saying what's gonna feel good. It'll feel good, and then start manipulating. If I can do this or that, then I can manipulate them to change. Rather than the ego's working on itself, right? It's kind of set up for self sabotage. It does have
You
a.
know,
Go ahead.
you want to know what's funny? I'm over here trying to change other people, another person is doing the same in manipulation, and then I'm thinking to myself, do I really actually love this person, or they're here just to serve a purpose for me? And I'm gaslighting myself by saying I actually love them. So it's kind of like, this is why I'm like, now I'm taking accountability in my relationships, because I'm not a victim, because you're doing the same thing, just different. You're doing the same thing essentially. So it's like moments of like clarity like this is like, it blows my mind, and then it makes me, then if I know the whole circle of all I'm doing, then it's insanity and it's self-destructive, then I might as well go to the path unwalked and see if I can have, grow as a person, as opposed to repeating the same cycle. Because honest to God, constantly going back into the same cycle, self-destructive cycle, was like dying. Like I felt like I was dying because there was no growth.
Because we are abandoning the self, or we're abandoning our essence. The essence, that part of your intelligence is always there, but the security system is overriding. It's the loudest, especially because it makes sense because you're in an environment that's triggering all the time. You're being triggered all the time. So it makes sense. That's going to alert and make the automatic security system turn on. It's a setup.
It is a setup. And like when you actually break past that cycle and actually do something better for yourself, like currently, before we did the coaching today, I was thinking to myself, like the difference between how my mom, lived her life, and how I'm not comparing her in a bad way, but I'm contrasting the two. And I'm like, wow, like my mom, she could not live by herself. Like she had to have people around her, even if she did not like them or hate them, she had to have people around them. And me, I'm like, my mom has never lived alone, she's never traveled, I've done so many things. I'm not trying to like one up my mother, I'm just saying, because people, I don't hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but I'm thinking about like all the things. I think my mom would have loved it if she had some alone time and she can do things on her own terms, as opposed to being surrounded by kids and other people all the damn time.
Also, she
um
support to approach your own mind. When I say mind, your own mental conditioning. I can't emphasize that enough. They didn't have the tools, right? They didn't have the tools, even sometimes things to make themselves feel better, but intentional tools to understand your own mental conditioning. Who had those tools?
you
We have
know I
leaders that have gone to school, right? And whether they went to seminary or whatever, they study psychology, oration, how to move the crowd, how to be persuasive, how to convince people. And here are, folks that might not even have a 12th grade reading level. You know what I'm saying? Who just looking to be comforted. They didn't have the tools to make those distinctions for themselves.
My mom, like, if you ever met her, she's so smart. It's just that she never tapped into her own potential. Like, and the reason why I say that is because it was a lot of us. We was like It was her and 6 kids, and she would be resourceful by going to church. She would sew our clothes. She was a handyman. She would fix that sink on her own. She would watch the person because she didn't have the money to fix the sink. So she would watch the handyman and then she would do it herself. But I don't think she had that level of confidence to know that she was that great of a person. I'm like, you were able to raise 6 kids on your own. That's
You didn't
insane.
support in her formative years. That's when your ego and your psyche is pretty much conditioned and set. So you're constantly pulling for it. It's set. So
Why?
it takes effort. It takes a conscientious, especially if you don't even know what you're dealing with, right? If you don't know what you're dealing with, it's like you're spinning your wheels, right? So once you understand the patterns and what you're working with, then you have more of a chance of it being reinforced, and you have feedback to see if you're on the right track. You know what I'm saying? You can compare and contrast. Then you have more of a chance. You have more access to the possibility of changing and reconditioning your
Mm,
mental conditioning, right? Resetting
I
it.
I agree. I just realized something, and I know I'm like spitting out a lot of things, but I'm just remembering stuff. Before my grandmother had passed away, right? Like a Caribbean household, like we had like it's like a dining room with a no one goes in there because everything is like decorated and spotless, and you had the china cabinet, and
Uh-huh.
then my grandmother had like a place where like the worshiping stand with the whole God set up and everything. And then Jesus, she had that thing sparkling. But on the other side of the room was an alcohol stand. It was a dresser with all types of alcohol. And then when it's contradicting because it's kind of like you praise the Lord, but you drink when you're sad and you stressed out. So when I actually started living with my mom again, Caribbeaners sometimes they have their family members watch their kids while they're in like because my mom couldn't handle me while she was in America, but by the time I was 5, I came back over. So anyway, I came to live with my mom at 5, and it was the same setup as my grandmother. She had the china cabinet, the beautiful dining room, everything spotless, but on the other side was the liquor cabinet.
Hmm.
And my mom, and I'll never this is a memory that I'll never forget. I'll remember her life was so stressful because there was a lot of kids. She would be playing church music while drinking and smoking.
Hmm.
And I'm like,
And
and
then,
then
did
it
you
was
have
like a psych.
a child?
Hmm?
Did you have any thoughts about that as a child?
I felt bad for my mother
Hmm.
because I understood even at a young age that we were having a hard time at it, but I didn't understand how difficult it was. She herself was not, she had arrested development. She was unmedicated. I think she was bipolar low key. She had a lot going on. And she had no support. So not only was she like, cause I'm reading this book, what's it called again? Um, It's right here. Emotionally adult children, emotionally immature parents. This
Hmm.
book.
Hmm.
She herself wasn't even developed enough to be having all them kids. And I know she had hopes and dreams because at one point she went into like to be a nursing aide and she wanted to be a nurse, but because of her poor choices in men and
Set
the
them back.
stress the stress of having so many children, she could not, you know, pursue her dreams. And I'm telling you, that woman, like when I think about the stuff my mom has done, I'm like, she would have been a hell of a damn nurse.
You
Um,
just
she,
said something really key in terms of like, which did, it was not, it didn't come from a space of a put down, but just acknowledge them. We can really acknowledge that they didn't have the awareness, right? They had already been conditioned, often exposed to trauma, but so to be like stunted in that area. And I think it's another area that we can observe that is not acknowledged, right? Culturally. So then we continue to have expose ourselves to tremendous amounts of stress that also put at least minimum 2 other people at more stress because we're not prepared and we're ill prepared and uninformed about the magnitude, of what we're dealing with in terms of parenting, not understanding ourselves and our psyche nor other people.
you know, and you want to know the eerie thing about this whole situation? Like, I myself repeated a lot of what my mom did in my 20s.
Mm.
And I in my 20 to 27, I was drinking a lot.
Mm.
Um, because it was socially acceptable, and I wanted it to be part of a community, and I wanted to have a good, the going to those parties, getting blackout drunk was dumb as hell. I'm older now, and I understand how dumb it was, but at the time, I just wanted to belong, and I also wanted to I now
Talking
know
about
why my
early,
mom.
that
Hmm?
is from culture and society, and we're so desensitized. We think it's a light thing, and then it's not.
It's not. Oh my god, that was not worth it. Lord have mercy. That dried me out so bad and messed me up. Anyway, the reason why I'm getting to I'm saying this to now, I'm like right now in my house I don't have a liquor and I don't smoke. And there's no indication. I don't think about drinking, I don't think about smoking, I don't think about doing any drugs. And I'm thinking back about like all the conditioning. Like I was so close to, and to a certain degree I did repeat the cycle. But by some luck, I broke out of it, and I'm like, if my mom was here right now, she would have a blast. Like
Mm.
she like what I'm the life that I'm living now, I'm working on it. It's not perfect, I'm grateful, but like I'm working on it. I'm like, she would have a blast. Like I think about a lot of things that I've done, and I'm surprised. I think, and I'm like, how the hell did I ever do any of that stuff? Like, I'm amazed, and I'm like, my mom would have a kick out of it if she had the ability to travel, to go to different schools, to like do different jobs. My mom was scared. She was scared for me when I actually went to plumbing when I became a plumbing apprentice in New York City because she didn't want me around a lot of men, and I understood why. But like, um she could not see beyond she couldn't see the possibilities because it was like she was stagnant. She was the
So
same person.
by her conditioning and what she had experienced, it sets the tone, especially in your formative years, and then it is reinforced. So yeah, yeah, this is why that's why I'm so big on education around what's going on inside the body, right, as well as inside the mind and how it is contributing. So, like when you said back to out of control cravings, we feel like we're starving, but in actuality, that's a narrative. We're actually not starving. Now, we could be starving for affection, wholesome affection, intimacy, connection, creativity, sunshine, nature. None of those things have anything to do with snacks and calories. And that's natural. That's natural. So in the absence of that, we overcompensate with food, and we're constantly being offered vices, right? Like we need more food, and it's like if you look around, we have diseases of excess.
That's the thing that I'm currently working on right now because it's not that I'm learning recently. It's not just emotional binge eating that I'm engaging into. I'm also doing it for like a dopamine hit. Like that goes partly into the whole ADHD thing. I do it for novelty and interest. And I'm also experimenting. I'm working through it because I'm constantly writing it down or doing voice logs, and I'm really thinking about it, being mindful. Like what you said earlier about you don't need large quantities of food. As of late I've been portioning out my food a lot more and being more mindful, and I'm looking for a means of eating, because I'm just going to say this: the counting of the calories and tracking everything is effective. I do lose weight with it, but long term it doesn't. I don't think it's a lifestyle for me. I'm trying to find a way to eat um the right nutrients.
It's
And
a good point. I'm glad you're saying this. It is only a tool so you can become educated on amounts, right? So you can understand technically what is an appropriate amount for you, because it's actually unnatural. It's unnatural to count calories. Who goes everywhere and counts calories? The only reason that we're doing that is because we're in an unnatural lifestyle. A lot of times we're sitting down for 8 hours. We're undersleep. We have no concept, especially with the processing of foods. We're so disconnected to our bodies. It's a tool so you can start to understand, well, how much fuel do I need? Let's say there's a amount. Let's say it was 1,500. Okay, 1,500. How do I feel? And 1,500 of what? So it's just a tool for education, so that eventually you don't need it anymore. But most people are operating. It's a big area of blindness. Most people have no concept, and culturally, it puts us in a space because you don't. It's like when I was sitting, and periodically when I run the numbers, not only numbers, I don't just run calories. When I look at the nutrition, so let's say, for example, this past week I was doing soybeans, sprouts, and it was amazing. Even though I've been doing this for many years, I was looking at the essential amino acids, right? So the essential amino acids, looking, can you get all of them? Which I know you can, but still to look at the numbers and to see the patterns of, wow, I was like, wow, it's all essential amino acids, and this is like no meat. And looking to see how I can do that with sprouts. So I'm not guessing, because if you under 8 calories, or let's say, I'm going to do a long fast, especially different phases of life. Let's say as a young person, a menstruating woman, breastfeeding woman, a menopausal woman, if I underdid calories, I will be depriving my body of nutrition for my brain. I wouldn't have enough fuel to build muscle. I get we still want the body to tap in and use stored adipose tissue, but I actually need, if I'm already operating at a deficit on the standard American diet of nutrition, not usually calories, right? And blood sugar is out of whack. And let's say menopause, I have different things going on in my body. The last thing I want to do is deprive my brain of nutrition. But it is possible to have high levels of nutrition and lower calories. Not low to the point where you're depriving yourself of overall fuel, but low enough where your body can start to tap in and use extra stored fuel, and also nourishing your brain and your nervous system, right? There's different chemicals, reactions that are happening when you're under stress, right? And in order for you to be able to recover, to have enough nutrition to have the building blocks to build muscle. So if you're just doing fasting all the time, you don't have enough nutrition to carry out basic functions. And then you can become muscle wasting and look catabolic. That's not most people's issue. But that can be an issue if you just thinking, I'm just going to slap a vegan label on it, and you don't understand basic nutrition. Does that make sense? So it's only a tool for interaction. You can use it and go back and forth and come back, but it's just so you can have a working knowledge of, wow, I didn't realize that was enough nuts for 10 people, or to get some kind of a picture of your fuel. And also today with nutrition apps, the old school calorie counters just had calories, but they didn't tell you about the nutrients. So I love looking at the actual nutrients that are in the food. I'm like, wow, where did all that vitamin B6 come from? Or the essential amino acids, or seeing what's coming from the foods that I have regularly in my intake. And so I can see, okay, I need to make sure I'm adding, let's say, for example, sea moss, or certain things for collagen in my skin, or certain things for my gut biome. I also recognize there are certain things that they don't really concentrate on, right? In some of these nutrition apps, right? They're just looking at calories, let's say like kombucha, sea moss, sprouted legumes. A lot of the research is not common to eat in 2025. They don't have a lot of that stuff inside the nutrition app. So maybe perhaps somebody like me that's a nitpicker about that will go in and add my information, so that's helping their database when I'm putting the nutrition in it for sprouts. If that makes sense.
It does. I actually do. Whenever I'm thinking of, when I'm actively, in the moment thinking about nutrition, I do think about a lot of the stuff that we talk about during coaching. And what I've noticed so far is the somatic, as within this last month that I've been amping everything up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that, like, being active during the day and engaging in somatic exercise, that is actually helping with the emotional binge eating side. Now the other part that I'm actively working on is the novelty recreational eating side. So what I've been doing, like we had when we did the protocol a couple of months ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still using a lot of the stuff that we did in that protocol. Like, I have a chopped salad, a really colorful chopped hearty salad, and a huge amount of it too. Can't have enough of it. and then I concentrate on um like good starches that are what do you call it, not simple starch but like complex carbs with fiber, and then I'll if I have any meat or fish or something like that, it will be small and has to be like good quality. And I've been eating like that, but I got to work on the recreational eating, I'm journaling about it and I'm thinking about it, and slowly I'm replacing it.
So hold on. So before we leave, let's address that for a moment, right? Because we're talking about out of control craving. So in your journal this week, I invite you to consider what is the purpose of recreational eating without any shame, without any guilt, how it makes you. I want you to explore your journal how good it makes you feel, the taste, the sensations, what comes up for you because it's something that's pleasurable, right? I want
Um,
you to explore the positive payoff.
I'll be honest with you. I feel like because I'll
Mm-hmm.
be honest with you. I realize, and I know this can change because I'm growing as a person. When I go cold turkey, I end up going back and binging. So, and I like for instance, I like chocolate ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've been doing lately, because I like the taste. Part of the whole novelty is I have like a. It's okay. Let me slow down. It's like stemming. Like I like the texture. I like the taste of it. I like it's just a sensation type of dopamine hit, right? It's not necessary for nutrition. So when I realize that it's just a form of
Oh, that's not a crime. You have the gift of a human body, so that would be like saying that intimate relations is a crime. It is not. It is something that we have the opportunity to experience here while we're on this planet, like to see colors. These are all things that are sensory, right? It's just the context where that's coming from. When it's coming from a place of us numbing out, right? And if we could also understand the connections to CPSD, if we're doing it as a trauma response, if we're able to be present, if we're able to have it in appropriate amounts and the quality, right?
what
So if you taste of chocolate, I'm not the biggest chocolate lover, but if I was going to eat chocolate, I'm using fresh cacao. It is absolutely delicious, right? But I'm not eating. I used to eat big bars of Cadbury fruit. No, I mean I used to go to Woolworth and get the big fat bars that for like for several people and just eat them. And I can remember in my mind the taste of the raisins and the almonds, and it was just oh my gosh! And it was like I had for me to have a little money to go get those things and quote unquote treat myself, right? They look at the context in terms of treating myself, but it's actually the context and the space. It wasn't like a small amount. See, without education, I'm gonna say the average person doesn't do moderation when it comes to self-soothing.
you
It's coming from a place of making myself feel better, and there's not a whole lot of other alternatives um, to make ourselves feel. That's not what pops up. It doesn't pop up. Let me go play double dutch. Let me go swim. Let me go out to nature. We have been conditioned to get that primarily from food. When most of food is everything we're eating is for taste. We don't actually need to eat everything for taste. Bitters are for healing of the body, right? So we don't usually reach for broccoli, um, aloe, things that are also some of the most beneficial things. It's the space that is coming from and the amounts. And when you couple that with the fact that often our blood sugar, many of us are pre-diabetic. So again, let's go back. Most of us, we technically should not be hungry because we have extra fuel on the body. So a lot of times our blood sugar is erratic. Blood sugar that's erratic is going to make you feel like you're hungry. So these distinctions are not made. We're also often dehydrated. So it's easy to label it as recreational because it is pleasurable, but that's not the whole picture, if that makes sense. And
it does.
what I is when you have enough super delicious things to look forward to that are high quality, that is a whole food. So that means with the chocolate, there are actual, if I go to the cabinet right now and get the cacao beans that are grown here, they're actually very bitter. And I know I've made chocolate in culinary school. So a lot of times you're tasting, if we deconstruct it, you're tasting sugar and fat because the actual chocolate is not appetite. Actually, you can eat it as an appetite suppressant if you eat the whole chocolate. So a lot of times we're not unpacking it, the narrative. Does that make sense? So we don't want to make it bad or wrong. You can have those experiences. But right now, if I made you a delicious live chocolate cake with strawberries and nice icing, you would eat it and you would be done. And we would go do other things on a regular basis. We would have life full of other activities that would give you dopamine hit, right? We wouldn't be on these screens. We would be interacting with each other. We'd be interacting with nature. We would have human connection. So you would feel so full that we wouldn't be so fixated on food as a cheap substitute for play and for human connection, right? We wouldn't be so fixated on piling up more and more clothes and things that we can't even imagine as a cheap substitute for not being in wholesome relationships and not getting to go outside and play and express our creativity. Does that make sense?
It does. And I do think about a lot of the things that you have said in the past, like in terms like a snack. And I remember you saying that, once it goes over 100 calories, it goes to like 200. That's like a meal already. So going back to like the whole me snacking on the ice cream thing, I decided, because I'm working I'm working I'm working it through right now. I'm gradually getting rid of stuff and replacing it, like, but in a way that it's not like, I want it to be a long term thing. So what I did was I bought like these tiny ice cream cones that are like 60 calories. There, and I would sit there and take my time and eat it, and then the craving would go away. And then I would sit with my emotions. You see what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to process it.
The only thing I'm going to say is this to be mindful of is the brain, right? And so, as much as you can, you want to go for whole food, right? Because when it becomes emotional for many of us, the reality is this is how we've been conditioned. It is what it is. So we're going for soothing and chemical reactions in the body, but your body doesn't care about 60 calories necessarily. It's the experience, but the experience doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy. So you want to be I invite you to be very protective and conscientious of things that have a negative impact on your brain. If something is pleasurable, we're not going to do it one time. So the more you move towards a whole food, right, and constantly being on the lookout for other treats and things that are whole foods that are nutritive. You can have something that's low calorie and it's pleasurable, but it's an anti-nutrient and also inflammatory, right? So without making bad or wrong, self-soothing is not necessarily wrong, but we also understand we pretty much set up in condition to not eat in moderation because of how our psyche has been conditioned, because of the amounts of trauma we've been introduced to, because of our long days and work schedules, because a lot of times we're often by ourselves. It's kind of like a setup, because ideally we want to eat the whole food, real food with nutrition. Your brain doesn't want anything that's inflammatory. Your nervous system and your heart, your cells to prevent cancer doesn't want anything that is inflammatory. That's not a real food. You know what I'm saying? So without making it wrong, knowing that, having that piece of education there, then you want to constantly looking to upgrade the quality of your food. And when you eat things, also strive to eat them very conscientiously. So if you're eating something that's 60 calories and you're enjoying it, it's not to make it bad or wrong, but also to constantly be on the lookout, to compare it, to journal, and to really experience the food and ask yourself and be reflective of the pleasure that you're getting from it. Is it just sensory? And then also, is it soothing? Does it feel nurturing? Like I like to say, like if you think of the like when you're eating something, if you slow down, there's sometimes a lot of times the like you know what I'm saying? It's an expression. It's also chemical that we're getting from the food. The thing to be wary of though are foods that are full of flavor and texture, but that compromise brain function and compromise us at a cellular level. Just to strive to be conscientious and compassionate with yourself at the same time. Does that make sense?
It does. And that's what I've been working through. I've been, how I say this. I don't, if I go not go, I know we spoke about this a couple of times, but I've noticed that I want to condition myself to feel like I know I have options, but I choose better. Does that make sense? Instead of everything is completely off the table.
Yeah, there's nothing that's off the table because we can choose to do anything that we want to do. right? Though likely the ego part of us, right, the security system is always going to choose what's comfort. And I would even say that primal part of us, it's like if you think of the reptilian part of the brain, it's not, I don't know if the word I want to say is mature. Maybe that's for lack of a better term. It's not mature. It's not thinking of all the details. It's going for those base feelings and emotions. It's not thinking if something is cancerous. It's just wants what it wants when it wants it, right? So it is, I would say it's immature. It's not often, it's a type of intelligence, but it's not logical, right? That's an important distinction. It's not logical. That part of our, it is already set. It is already conditioned. So sometimes we say cold turkey. It's kind of challenging to go cold turkey. Even that concept cold turkey, how are you going to go cold turkey when your mental conditioning is already set? So when people say I go back, it's like we never left because the conditioning did not leave. In order to recondition ourselves, we would hypothetically have to have new habits. Let's say if I spent 20 years doing this habit, then I would have to have 21 years or more of the new habit with a new frame of mind. So the old conditioning never left. And without making ourselves bad or wrong, just to understand the human psyche and human conditioning. So we have more access to change. We understand we're always going to seek pleasure and self-soothing. Now knowing that, how can I choose what is high quality for my brain and my nervous system? Right? And it's once you organize it in your brain and you have a standard, then you can be more open to, it's going to show up on your radar, just like you found all those nice fruits, to finding new combinations, new ways to prepare stuff that is just as delicious. It's totally possible. But we want to be wary of fake food is inflammatory. That's the best way I can say it. Too much food is inflammatory. Eating too much. That doesn't mean we're never going to eat the other stuff, but the more conscientious you are and the more you find other things to enjoy that are top quality, it eventually becomes a non-issue, right? And I'm saying this to somebody that was so addicted to garbage and potatoes. It's a miracle that I don't crave pork fried rice, half chicken pork fried rice, extra duck sauce, mustard sauce, every kind of barbecue potato chip. It's amazing that I don't crave that stuff anymore, because like a drug addict, I was wondering even if I would be off of that stuff, even when I started eating the health food and the vegan varieties of it. But eventually, you know, with enough education, I had to come to terms with, it's just a better quality of quote unquote health junk. But the space that it's coming from is not really about the food. The self-soothing is not about the food. It's big. It's not about the food. It's definitely not about nutrition. The crunch and the texture is it's an experience, something sensory that we're trying to have. But that's how deep the propaganda is around food, because technically it's so depleted, it's not really food. Now we're on the human plane and we have this whole narrative and there's different things we can experience. Just because we can experience something doesn't mean that we should. So we go back to, if you look at the rates of HIV and AIDS with Black women, that demonstrates it right there. Because how can we be continually putting ourselves in such deeply compromising positions that are deadly? It's coming off the same root. So without making it bad or wrong, is it beneficial? If it's not beneficial, it's not. But the ego is always going to justify something that is soothing, self-soothing, and comforting. And you can have something that's comforting and soothing, but is toxic to the system. And especially when we think of how our organs have been compromised, what your brain is up against, how the different types of trauma that we've experienced, how has it affected our nervous system? There's a lot working against us, right? So I said, once you have that information, it's about not beating yourself up, but being an observer, right? And is it beneficial to the brain and the cells, or it's not, right? But when you do engage in something, strive to do it conscientiously. Now, let's say we compare this to intimate relations, right? Okay, if you know you're going to do something without protection, do it conscientiously. Okay, you did it conscientiously. Okay, you only did it for 2 seconds, but now you have HIV. Where was it coming from? You know, maybe that seems like an extreme example, but was it about the food? Was it about the intimacy? Or was it really about, I wanted validation? I wanted somebody to hug me. It's bigger than the food, than the physical food. Is this making sense?
It does, and I appreciate you telling me the truth, but also being as balanced as possible. Because I know what you're saying. Because you said this before, and I'm trying to. Because you said a couple of things like the whole conditioning thing. Like
If
I've been
that's,
eating
I keep telling you, who
it.
do I would even say put them on the altar. Put the drug addict on the altar, because there are lessons about human nature, male, female, whatever label you want to call yourself. There's something to be learned about what humans have the capacity to do. We have the capacity for brilliance. We have the capacity for deviancy, all kinds of wickedness, meanness, male and female. Just look around. Mean, desensitized, dehumanizing to ourselves and to others. That's a state of mind. That's conditioned now into the society. And it is affected by the things that we're eating, because it's also affecting your decision making process. Anything that you do, it's happening quickly. You're conditioned to choose something. If you're choosing something, you have a thinking and reasoning process that has been set up. A lot of that narrative was not created by you, has been handed down to you, passed on to you, right? How do we consider putting ourselves in harm's way like it's not a serious thing? So we've been desensitized to it. But when we get clear, fortunately, it's not until a lot of times we're suffering or we're being wheeled into the operating room that we're like, I got to do better, God, if you let me off this operating table. And it doesn't work. That's not how it works. Otherwise, we are a very, quote unquote, addicted society. It is reinforced. It is supported by family members, friends. We are an addicted society, and that's tough. The ego can't bear that, but it is what it is. Most people don't do moderation. I don't care how much you're talking about antioxidants. Come on, it is known now one of the most toxic things you can do for your brain is alcohol. But we have to wait until it's late in the game, until there's so much damage, till there's a recall on the vape pens. We're so behind, but that's also fitting in with the group. When people say things with enough authority, we follow the person with the PhD. And I'm not saying there's nothing valuable in allopathic medicine or in science, but the person, the minister, the politician, the celebrity that speaks with enough confidence, we are a species that follows and mimics. I don't want to say it's embarrassing, but it is what it is. We are a type of animal that sometimes, you ever heard the term, the old Pentecostals just say dumb flesh? Dumb,
But
that we walk in a pile of dumb flesh. Now, let's unpack that. Are we really dumb flesh? What is it that would make us dumb? Dumb in the context of ignoring the patterns that have been demonstrated, the consequences that are clearly there. Still, we are exposing ourselves, putting ourselves in harm's way in full knowledge. There's a deep cognitive dissonance. We know, but we don't do. We're conditioned into that. That is nothing to take for granted.
you know what it is?
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to get to a point where, okay, I'm trying to get to a point with my nutrition where I got with fitness just now. It's going to take, I don't know how long it's going to take, and I know it's going to take some time, but I want it to be a lifestyle change. I don't want to keep yo-yo dieting. I'm trying to, I'm
I would
coming
say,
to terms with my relationship.
this. Relax, because already you you got scoop and go down.
Oh yeah, I love my baggy system.
That just demonstrates you have already integrated a lot as a lifestyle. This is not about this is not about feeling guilty. It's about seeing if you can, like, you sit with the uncomfortable feelings within your journal. It's like sitting with the reality before the fact, before we have damaged, eaten ourselves to the point of deformity, before we have so jacked up our blood sugar with overeating and indulging in too much. Sitting with the reality and the responsibility of how we consume. We have been desensitized to the responsibility for our consumption. And it is a lot of pleasurable things to have that don't destroy the body. But that takes time. That takes education. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Again, look at our body. Look at the state of your body. Then you can't see your organs. You can't see your liver, your kidney, your brain. We have compromised a lot of our body. it almost comes off to the ego like that's negative. How dare you say something so negative? Let me speak for myself. Years of overeating and eating to soothe myself, that's not a crime. Those are habits that I picked up. Even if it was vegan, vegetarian, vegan Oreos, and I'm eating 3 rolls, it doesn't matter. Even if I'm working out, it's unhealthy for the brain and my blood sugar. Then when you can't control the out of control cravings, it's because each time you engage in certain habits, you reinforce that habit. And then we try to intellectualize it. You build the habits are ingrained into your nervous system. We're not understanding our psyche. We're not understanding, we're only just beginning to understand the chemical, the dopamine, the epinephrine, the serotonin, but it's at an intellectual basis. So just like you're able to sit with your feelings and your emotions, it's a hard pill to swallow. Though when you have more things to look forward to in your lifestyle, then you don't have to diet. So there's already a lot you've integrated. I would say just relax. It's the awareness and the information is sobering. Sometimes it can feel like you're lonely, and immediately the ego goes, there's nothing to eat. That's not true. There's plenty. Just the fact that you can stand here and say scoop and go is a reality. I remember when that was nowhere, that wasn't even on your radar. That's become integrated as a part of your lifestyle. So there's no failure. Once you have the information, relax. But I can tell you this, there are numerous distinctions. Education has helped me so much. Looking at that atherosclerosis being pulled out of those arteries, sitting on the other side of those consultations of so many people, the doctor can't do anything for you anymore. That has helped me understand exactly what, it helps me be more objective, right? Because the ego wants to maintain the status quo. You know a lot already. But if you think you're going to underestimate the emotions or take them for granted, it don't work like that. We're usually spending, consuming, placing our arteries, our reproductive organs in harm's way from emotion, from trauma, and it is conditioned into our mental patterns. So when we say we came back, it didn't leave. That may sound, it didn't leave. So with humility and respect for ourselves and our process to approach ourselves gently, but also with truth and honesty like a mature parent, right? If you let the little child run rampant, you give them the rent money, it's a wrap. If you let them choose what to eat, the child is always going to choose ice cream. They're not going to choose the broccoli and stuff. As the adult, I know to make things attractive for my child. So it sounds uncomfortable, but I don't know other way to kick it to you, but then tell you the truth. And then you can just relax into it, you know it, and just give yourself space and grace. But there's balance between that. Giving yourself grace doesn't mean that we're passive or that we're not accountable, because we're accountable for everything we do to our body. We're striving to make deposits into the 401k of our vitality, so your brain is there when you need it to be. Because trust me, you're gonna need to make withdrawals from all these habits. I've been making withdrawal from years of habits. When I got hit by that car in Central, I had never been hit by a car before. My sister's constantly, oh my gosh, thank goodness you've been working out all these years for my bone density, right? And even for my glutes when I landed on the ground. I'm making withdrawals. We are kind of like sitting ducks in terms of the sense of urgency. There's not a sense of urgency to change. We are conditioned to be desensitized that there's not a sense of urgency to change until it's urgent as emergency. And as soon as that pain wears down, we're right. The conditioning, the mental conditioning never left. So we don't want to be hype about it, because the ego will have you wrestle on the ropes like Muhammad Ali. We can relax. There's enough food to eat. There's good food to eat. There's plenty of other options. If you got to the scoop and go, that took years. So just relax. If you're gonna eat something, eat it conscientiously. At least you're aware of the amount of fuel. So when you say you don't necessarily want to use MyNet diet, that tool has made you very aware of amounts. So that's to say you haven't lost any, you only gained from the education. You have tools. You think you're not learning anything because it feels like it's almost restrictive, right? You think a drug addict is gonna be restrictive or an alcoholic? when they're having an alcoholic binge. That's what I'm saying. I think moderation to a certain is a scam for most people. We would not have the rates of obesity if people did. Humans don't usually do moderations with intimate relations, with our reproductive organs, with concentrated recreational substances. We just don't. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, you're making a lot of sense, and it's something that I'm going to be, thinking about, reflecting about, and making voice journals about.
And that's it. That's all you got to do, because that's how you shift your consciousness when cravings, those things come up. It takes actually presence and courage to ask yourself, am I truly hungry? Did I get enough nutrition? Right? Because we know how to go back and we can run the numbers. Remember, you can take a screenshot of nutrition and put it inside, our private chats. Did you get enough nutrition for the day? Are you truly hungry, or is it your blood sugar? Or are you overtired? Are you dehydrated? Is all of those different things? Or is it just your ego? I want what I want right now because it's going to make me feel better. I'm so irritated because I just got off the road with this person with road rage, and I just want this because it's going to make me feel better.
It's all of those things. I think about a lot of those things during the day. Like it's hard sometimes. Like that's what I'm saying. I'm processing it all. Like sometimes my hunger is because I'm thirsty, or I don't have enough fiber, or if I don't have enough vegetables. I know, like I try to go through the whole gamut. Did I drink enough water? Did I have enough fiber? Did I have enough fruits and vegetables? Um,
Some kind of a prep, like let's say for example, your kitchen, your fridge, and your pantry is stocked enough with fruits and vegetables, so that's not a question anymore. You got enough, you can scoop on the drop of a dime into the bag and go, right? You know so much, but it's a journey. It is a journey. It's a journey. The more you relax and have compassion, and the more also you are engaging. We don't just want to approach this from intellect is important, education is important, but then it's the emotions and the thought of like your security blanket of comfort. The idea of it being taken away from you, that registers is like not safe, uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? So just relax. Continue to educate yourself, because there's some kind of education we can look at that would stop you in your tracks.
well, I was listening very carefully. I hear everything you said, and the whole part about like it compromising my brain is ringing loud and clear in my body, because there's some parts, like there's some things that when I was doing my somatic exercises, like I want to accommodate and enhance, and I'm like, I mean, if I have to choose between the ice cream cone and my brain, I'm taking my brain any day of the week, and I'm like,
And money for your body.
green,
What's oxygenating to your cells?
green. And you've been saying this from day one.
Even if it's calories, is that oxygenating?
You mean the greens?
The recreational snacky snacks, are those hydrating?
No.
It's some of it got crunch, sugar, and texture. But if you had to ask your cells would be like, I don't give a shit about that low grade stuff. Give me at the at this level, right? But the conditioning is packaged and it's cute and it's a cone. You think your cells look different than an ice cream cone? That's some processed stuff. I'm not trying to be harsh on it, but it
No,
is.
no, no. You're right. You're right. I'm listening, and I'm not taking it in a negative way.
Mad at
I'm
me,
taking.
mad at me. Don't be mad at me, girl.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not mad at you. I am. I'm actually going to replay the last part of this, because there's a lot of it. It's not. It's nuanced. There's a lot of little tidbits of things that interconnect with each other that I'm working through, and I know over time it's going to get better. And I hear you, and I'm really thinking about like my life. We spoke about this before. Like you have to like set yourself up for your older self, that older lady, and I'm like, I think my older self would appreciate me doing right by myself now by eating properly.
Not only older, right? I want you to think of like your protector, the steward, the person that is given responsibility. If you were going to be a parent right now, if you decided to be a parent right now, you'd be thinking, okay, in this environment, if I'm going to portal a human here, I'm going to make sure I give them every opportunity. If you're going to do that conscientiously, you're going to make sure they have the best. Based on your experience, we know you're going to want them to have the best. You want to give them the best opportunity Not only to just be fed food, clothes, and shelter, you'd want them to flourish and to be able to express their gifts. You would want them to have the best possible human experience. You would set that up. You would make provisions for that human. You would make provisions for them. That's a lot of our immaturity that's not there due to ignorance, willful ignorance, and just ignorance. We don't make provisions. We're not thinking of the DNA makeup of the person that we're choosing as a part. We're not thinking. That's embarrassing, but it's true. We're not thinking that deep. We're not thinking deep. We're not making provisions for this person. We're not really considering, being honest about the amounts of stress when you're trying to, you can go up, oh, you can do it, girl. You can do it by yourself. God will provide. But we're not making provisions. We're not preparing, right? So that same kind of nurturing is needed for us. If the parents that we had were ignorant or unwilling or unable, now we're reparenting ourselves to be a good steward to the body that you were given. And the body can heal. Your body knows what to do when you give it this, when you give it the sleep, when you give it whole, fresh food, that natural, your body knows what to do when you give it play, when you give it sunshine. It knows. We haven't even explored all those things that, had experiences of what the body can do, right? We haven't lived there long enough. So sometimes if I'm saying that, it might seem foreign. You might not be there yet. That might not be your lived experience every day. But there's a lot now that is part of your experience on a regular basis, right? Because it's a process. It is nothing to underestimate reconditioning your mind. People say it like, this is the age of words. Like you just say affirmations. As an avid self-help affirmation person of over 30-something years, it can be a scam. Just saying empty affirmations, if you don't understand how the psyche works, it can have a reverse effect. When you're lying to yourself, when the part of your mind like, girl, you ain't got no intention on doing none of that. Let's go get this half chicken pork fried rice so I can make myself feel better. And I'm going to get these movies and I'm going to make, that will override the intellect if you don't respect our capacity to do that. That aspect of us will self-sabotage you every time. I know that sounds horrible because we're not understanding the ego. We're not understanding the psyche. It's not profitable. It's profitable for you, but not for the entities that want to, grab your labor. It's not profitable. It's profitable to you. It's profitable to other entities. It would be profitable to you if you understand your psyche in the way that is working. But we are conditioned to fantasy. I can eat this and you can eat all you want and there's no consequences. That's deep. We can't do whatever you want to the body and think your womb is going to be tumor free and that your cells know exactly what you put in from the time you put it in. Your brain is responding to anything you're putting in the body. When you're under stress and you're not sleeping, your body knows exactly. That's inflammation city. But yet we keep buying more supplements. Disconnection. Disembodied. So it's nothing necessarily to be sad about, but it's shocking when you think of the weight of it, right? And why the nuances to change. So it's put in front of your face like it's so easy. That's a scam. It is, but it ain't. Not if you don't even understand what you're working with your own conditioning. You don't really understand trauma, CPTSD, how to recondition the mind. It's no joke. But anyway, my love, any final questions?
No, I'm gonna replay the last part of this because there's a lot of tidbits of information that you went over, and I hear you, and I
I
don't feel like you're busting my chops, and I'm listening attentively because some of the stuff that you brought up is like what I'm processing right now, and I'm working on it, and when you tell me to relax, I do that a lot. I like to get enthusiastic
distinction. It just
and
makes.
do too much.
I think there's a lot of pressure. Well, I invite you to consider reframing, working on it from doing more, because it can register in the subconscious like you have to do more. I want you to consider, and you can do this, write this in your journal, right? Your tool for self-reflection. Who do I have to be to experience the life that I want to have? For the life experiences that I want to have while I still have my human suit. who do I have to be? How do I have to show up? Now, that's to somebody that also wants to experience different pleasurable experiences, but who do I have to be? Non-confrontational, respectfully confrontational, courageous, organized, prepared. What's your state of being? Because the being is the shortcut. When you're being, a lot of times we're not being, we're ruminating, we're in fear, but we're trying to do more. But the more you become and you be, also life experience, right? That hard-earned wisdom, not just information, comes from life experience. We just don't want to jack ourselves up and ruin our reproductive organs in our bodies before we get the wisdom. That's what happens to a lot of us, especially women. We don't figure it out until our late 40s, 50s, after we've destroyed a lot of our bodies with poor, uninformed decisions and other folks giving us bad advice, poor advice. But you're taking it because that's what's available to you. Who do you have to be? And your state of being is going to affect your thinking and reasoning process. Your state of being is going to determine the decision you make for what you put in your mouth, who you give access to your reproductive organs. If you go to sleep, that's it. What you described today in terms of your progress is your state of being. That's the shortcut.
So, I didn't mention this before, but as of late, I've been noticing in subconsciously, I've been kind of choosing better without thinking too much. Or let me slow down. I've noticed when you say who do I have to be, I'm thinking about like the situations where um I am choosing stuff subconsciously, and even though I don't understand the I don't have the language for it or the knowledge for it, but I instinctively know it actually works well with me. Like a quick example.
Pause. You said you don't have the language. You can feel though, right? Even if you don't have a language, you can feel, right?
Yeah, but it's like a intelligence. I don't know what it.
Your intuition, even if you don't have the language, even if you don't have the language, we talk all the time, intuition, women's intuition, people. If you just feel into it, just feel. If you just feel, that's very significant information. There's a lot of information there for when you slow down when you're on your walks. Do you experience clarity when you're on your walks?
Yeah, and it actually helps me make better decisions.
So then you're re-regulating your nervous system. We're making a lot of decisions from a dysregulated nervous system. So that's another check-in that you can do. When you're about to choose what to eat, you can do a little check-in. What state is my? You can ask yourself out loud, right? Is my nervous system dysregulated right now? So then you can, like the mature, good steward, right? The good mother of you. Is this a good time to choose certain things to eat when my nervous system is dysregulated? What am I likely to choose to eat when my nervous system is dysregulated?
When I'm dysregulated, I eat a lot of crap. Yeah, junk food, sweets.
Is that a pattern?
Yeah,
So the ego is gonna make it like it's a fresh, brand new, bright. No, it's an established pattern. It's already established, so we don't have to come back and revisit it. It is, but the ego is gonna try to make it like it's something new. No, the same result. It's like when somebody chooses to get high. It's been demonstrated over and over. When I was watching Junkie, the woman was like, "Yeah, I know I need to stop." Her daughter came looking for her to crack that on. Yeah, I'm gonna stop. Her face is destroyed. Her teeth are destroyed. Yeah, I'm gonna stop one day. That's delusional. This society, it reinforces delusion. And it plays out in men and women. We're often very delusional. It's so interesting that we're more conditioned to focus on and believe what we don't see than what's being shown right in front of us. The results of the alcohol, cigarettes, our consumption pattern, it's on the package of the cigarettes. The diabetes, the fallouts from, the consequences have been shown to you. The race of the SE has been shown to us. And we'll still turn around and do the same thing. What can we say for that in terms of the human condition? Well, we're not humble. The cognitive dissonance is reinforced. It's profitable. That's why we don't need chattel slavery anymore. Because we'll pay to enslave ourselves at a premium. Isn't that nuts? It's deep. It's deep. But remember, there's a lot of delicious food to look forward to, and a lot of times, and remember, you can sometimes lay on the floor sometimes and do nothing, just so you can sometimes get reconnected to re-regulate your nervous system, right? To just feel the peace and the calm. That's not, and I'm saying to somebody that really enjoys eating, that's trained as a chef. That's not food. That's not the food, that's the connection. And you can't control connection with other people and having children, so that requires other people. But you can, and you can really, as you said, as you've been doing, cultivate a deep relationship with yourself. I've heard people say create a relationship with God. To me, this is just me. Over the years, I felt that was bullcrap. I'm like, how can you be doing 40-day consecration fast, as my family did all the time in church? You do all these fasts at the church, and you're praying your 6 o'clock prayer, 9 o'clock prayer, all this stuff. You're putting all this money inside, but your body's obese. That makes no sense. That makes zero sense. But this is the kind of delusion that is reinforced with men and women. But I'm going to say especially with women. It's reinforced. And we pass this bad advice on to each other. Your eyes can't see the disconnection. It makes no sense. We're trashing our bodies. Trashing them. It's totally disrespectful and also just out of alignment. It's out of alignment. It doesn't make sense. We're not the logical creatures we make ourselves out to be. You know, it's like intellect. Sometimes it's not so impressive when you got several degrees, but you can't figure out how to stop killing yourself in your body because it's emotional. It's coming from somewhere. Nature's not going to do that to you. Whole fresh living foods ain't going to do that. If anything, the whole fresh living foods will give you the cues. You'll feel more of those cues of satiation. So then you can get some space. You're like, okay, now I've had enough nutrition. I'm actually not hungry. This crate is coming from somewhere else. It's coming from somewhere else. So I'm going to put a thumbnail on it so you can catch it inside the replay. Put it on while you're decluttering. I hope you're doing a lot of decluttering. I'm still decluttering. I'm like, ooh, ain't going to be nothing left. But it feels so good to let go of what is not serving me. Why am I holding on to you? Just energetically, I don't need it. You know, so there's a lot of other things to do so you can free up the space for something else. There's other nurturing and nourishment that has nothing to do with food. That being said, we're not ever skimping on nutrition over here for the brain and the cells. All right, Mamacita, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. We'll connect soon. Keep posting. I love your posts inside of the fitness. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yep, definitely. All right, we'll connect soon.
Bye.